What can you expect from the Minnesota Twins that were added to the active roster following the September 1st expansion? The Twins added 3 players. Even though the roster expanded only by 2 spots, the Twins optioned Mick Abel back to AAA after a pretty rough outing over the weekend that saw him give up 6 runs, 5 of them earned in just 1 inning pitch. So he will be back with the Saints. That gave the Twins 3 moves that they could make with the September 1st roster expansion. Now, 2 of those moves are going to be mostly bullpen related. These are going to be 2 players who are going to be kind of auditioning for a potential bullpen spot in the 2026 bullpen. Of course, at the trade deadline, the Twins kind of cleaned house on their bullpen, and so over the next couple of years, while they kind of retool things and wait for Walker Jenkins and wait for some of those top prospects, they will be looking to rebuild what was one of the best, if not the best, bullpens in the league. And probably the biggest name that offers the most optimism, if that's the right word, would be right-handed pitcher Travis Adams, who is only 26 years old and, according to Baseball America's latest rankings, is the Twins' 29th rated prospect. So not a top prospect by any means, but at least somebody who has a little bit of intrigue to him. The former 6th round pick in the Major League Baseball draft has struggled with the Twins so far this year. If you take out that one start against Detroit where he went 5 innings and struck out 7, he otherwise has a 7.4 ERA over 9 different appearances. Now, what's been a little bit of a change for Adams is that in his time in St. Paul before being recalled, he was actually being used as just a single inning reliever guy. Whereas with the Twins, he was kind of a bulk reliever, making spot starts here and there. But again, with the Saints, at least most recently, he was limited to just 1 inning. And that brought his fastball up to the mid to upper 90s rather than the mid to low 90s. And so you're looking at a potential guy who, if you move him to that single inning, he could be the next Cole Sands, Griffin Jax, Louis Varland. Now those are some pretty tall tasks, especially when we talk about Jackson Varland. But albeit we are looking at a guy who doesn't really have a lot of prospect capital as a starter, but maybe the Twins can kind of work some magic and turn him into a pretty decent reliever. And so I think for Travis Adams, this September, this next month, will be a huge opportunity for him to show his worth for 2026 and moving forward. He was not the only arm that the Twins promoted on September 1st. They also promoted Noah Davis, who they acquired via trade back in like mid-July from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, he has had a very limited sample with the Twins with just 7 appearances, but he, in those 7 appearances, has produced an 18 ERA. Now, I wish I could say that he had done better with the Saints, but I mean, I guess he had done better comparatively to an 18 ERA, but his ERA was still north of 4, almost 5, and so just doesn't really look like anything meaningful here. He's 28 years old, so he's kind of on the older end when we talk about prospects. He's not ranked anywhere, and so this is a guy who he's going to get a shot here, at least until Pablo Lopez returns. That's kind of what my gut tells me, is that on Friday, which is kind of when it's speculated that Pablo Lopez will return from the 60-day injured list, they're going to have to demote somebody back to St. Paul. And I kind of feel like Noah Davis is probably the guy that loses out here, just again, because he hasn't shown a lot. Now, he has, a few days here to maybe make a name for himself, but even if that happens, I don't know if we're going to see him on the big league roster following Friday, when, again, it's speculated that Pablo Lopez finally returns from that injury. We'll get back on what those implications are here in a little bit. And then the third player we are very familiar with, DaShawn Keirsey Jr., was added back to the active roster. He is looking like a 4th outfielder at best. That's probably his ceiling. Back ahead of the 2024 season, he was a borderline top 20 prospect, according to Baseball America, at least within the Twins organization. We've seen a decent amount of him. I will say that he's been with the Twins a lot this year, but he hasn't gotten playing time, and it's really hard to do anything with the limited and inconsistent playing time that he has been given. He's played in 68 games, 85 plate appearances. So you do a little bit of math there. That's basically 1.5-ish plate appearances per game. So he's not really been able to get into any sort of rhythm or flow. In those 85 plate appearances, you're looking at a .324 OPS with 2 home runs and 9 stolen bases, resulting in a -16 WRC plus. So he has his work cut out for him here in the last month of the season. If he wants to make a name for himself as a potential 4th outfielder heading into 2026, he's going to have to get, first of all, just more of an opportunity, but he's going to have to produce in that limited opportunity that he is going to get. Realistically, as I look long term, I kind of think he's probably what he's been used as so far this season. He's typically come in as a late inning defensive replacement, late inning guy who can steal you a base. He grades out as 70 field and speed, and so I think that's ultimately probably what he becomes, is probably like the 25th, 26th guy on the active roster, not even the 4th outfielder, but maybe the 5th outfielder who can, steal you a base when you need an extra 90 feet later in the game. So again, that's Travis Adams and Noah Davis looking to audition for a potential 2026 bullpen role, and then DaShawn Keirsey Jr., who's also 28 years old. So again, he's kind of old for a prospect, so to speak, even though he's graduated from that status. But this might really be kind of his last opportunity to make a name for himself as a 4th outfield or even just a bench option. Now, again, we should be expecting more moves to come. Pablo Lopez, again, speculated that he will start on Friday. And so not only will that require a 28 or an active roster move, but that's actually going to require a 40-man move, because he's been on the 60-day IL, and the 40-man roster is currently full. Now, the easiest move would probably be to put Christian Vazquez on the 60-day IL, essentially ending his season. Now, recently, Rocco Baldelli did say that Vazquez is in high spirits and he's hoping to get back to the diamond this year. I don't know how realistic that is, but that could be one option for the Twins to open up a 40-man spot. Otherwise, I mean, we know what the state of this team is right now. Honestly, whether it's Vazquez or somebody else, there's a lot of guys that they could definitely DFA off the 40-man roster. There's a lot of guys aside from Noah Davis that they could option back to St. Paul if they need to do that as well. So it's unclear what the corresponding move will be. But again, we are looking for auditions here in the last month of the season. And so I'll be looking especially at Travis Adams to see how he does in maybe a single inning relief outing, and see if he can get a few extra ticks on the radar gun on his fastball, and see what his off speed does in those smaller samples. So that's what I'm expecting from these call-ups here in the month of September. What are you expecting? Let us know in the comments. And of course, visit twinsdaily.com for more Twins coverage.